The Jerusalem Bible, Genesis chapter 32. Laban rose early next morning, and kissing his sons and daughters, he blessed them. Then Laban left to return home. While Jacob was going on his way, angels of God met him. And on seeing them, he said, "This is God's camp." And he named the place Menahem. Jacob sent messengers ahead of him to his brother Esau in the land of Seir, the countryside of Edom, with these instructions. "Say this to my lord Esau. Here is the message of your servant Jacob. I have been staying with Laban till now, and have acquired oxen, beasts of burdens, and flocks, and men and women slaves. I send news of this to my lord in the hope of winning your approval." The messengers returned to Jacob and told him, "We went to your brother Esau, and he is already on his way to meet you. There are 400 men with him." Jacob was greatly afraid and distressed. He divided the people with him and the flocks and cattle into 2 companies, saying, "If Esau comes to one of the companies and attacks it, the other company will be left to escape." Jacob said, "O God of my father Abraham, and God of my father Isaac, Yahweh, who said to me, 'Go back to your country and family, and I will make you prosper.' I am unworthy of all the kindness and goodness you have shown your servant. I had only my staff when I crossed the Jordan. Here and now I form 2 companies. I implore you, save me from my brother's clutches, for I am afraid of him. He may come and attack us, and the mothers and their children. Yet it was you who said, 'I will make you prosper, and make your descendants like the sand of the seashore, so many that it cannot be counted.'" Then Jacob passed the night there. From what he had with him he chose a gift for his brother Esau, 200 she-goats and 20 he-goats, 200 ewes and 20 rams, 30 camels in milk with their calves, 40 cows and 10 bulls, 20 she-asses and 10 donkeys. Then he put them in the charge of his servants in separate droves. And he told his servants, "Go ahead of me, leaving a space between each drove and the next." He gave the first this order: "When my brother Esau meets you and asks, 'To whom do you belong? Where are you going? Whose are those animals that you are driving?' you will answer, 'To your servant Jacob. They are gifts sent to my lord Esau. Jacob himself is following.'" He gave the same order to the second and the third, and to all who were following the droves. That is what you must say to Esau when you find him. You must say, "Yes, your servant Jacob himself is following." For he argued, "I shall conciliate him by sending a gift in advance, so when I come face to face with him, he may perhaps receive me favorably." The gift went ahead of him, but he himself spent the night in the camp. That same night he arose, and taking his 2 wives and his 2 slave girls and his 11 children, he crossed the ford of the Jabbok. He took them and sent them across the stream, and sent all his possessions over too. And Jacob was left alone. And there was one that wrestled with him until daybreak, who, seeing that he could not master him, struck him in the socket of his hip, and Jacob's hip was dislocated as he wrestled with him. He said, "Let me go, for today is breaking." But Jacob answered, "I will not let you go unless you bless me." He then asked, "What is your name?" "Jacob," he replied. He said, "Your name shall no longer be Jacob, but Israel, because you have been strong against God. You shall prevail against men." Jacob then made this request, "I beg you, tell me your name." But he replied, "Why do you ask my name?" And he blessed him there. Jacob named the place Peniel, because I have seen God face to face, he said, and I have survived. The sun rose as he left Peniel, limping upon his hip. That is the reason why to this day the Israelites do not eat the sciatic nerve that is in the socket of the hip, because he had struck Jacob in the socket of the hip on the sciatic nerve. The Jerusalem Bible, Genesis chapter 33. Looking up, Jacob saw Esau arriving with 400 men. Accordingly, he divided the children between Leah, Rachel, and the 2 slave girls. He put the slave girls and their children in front, with Leah and her children following, and Rachel and Joseph behind. He himself went ahead of them, and bowed to the ground 7 times before going up to his brother. But Esau ran to meet him, took him in his arms, and held him close, and wept. Then looking up, he saw the women and the children. "Who are these with you?" he asked. Jacob answered, "The children whom God has bestowed on your servant." The slave girls then came up with their children, and they all bowed low. Leah also came up along with her children, and they all bowed low. Finally, Rachel and Joseph came up and bowed low. Esau asked, "What was the meaning of all the company that I have met?" "It is to win my Lord's favor," he replied. "Brother, I have plenty," Esau answered. "Keep what is yours." Jacob protested, "Please, if I have found favor with you, accept the gift I offer. To speak truly, I came into your presence as into the presence of God, but you have received me kindly. So accept the gift I have brought for you. Since God has been generous to me, I have all I need." And he urged him, and Esau accepted. Esau said, "Let us break camp and move off. I will lead you." But Jacob replied, "My Lord is aware that the children are weak, and that I must consider the sheep and the cows that have calved. If they are driven too hard, even for one day, the whole drove will die. May it please my Lord to go on ahead of his servant. For my part, I will move at a slower pace, to suit the flock I am driving and the children, until I join my Lord in Seir." Then Esau asked, "But I must at least leave you some of the people to accompany you." "Why?" Jacob asked. "All I desire is to win your favor." So that day Esau resumed his journey to Seir. But Jacob left for Succoth, where he built himself a house and made shelters for his livestock. That is why the place was given the name Succoth. Jacob arrived safely at the town of Shechem in Canaanite territory on his return from Padan Aram. He encamped opposite the town, and for 100 pieces of silver he brought from the sons of Hamor, the father of Shechem, the piece of land on which he had pitched his tent. Here he erected an altar which he called El, God of Israel. The Jerusalem Bible, Genesis chapter 34. Dinah, who was Jacob's daughter by Leah, went out to visit the women of that region. Shechem, the son of Hamor the Hivite, who was ruler of that region, saw her, carried her off and raped her, and so dishonored her. But he was captivated by Dinah, the daughter of Jacob. He fell in love with the young girl and comforted her. Accordingly, Shechem said to his father Hamor, "Give me this young girl. I want to marry her." Meanwhile, Jacob had heard how his daughter Dinah had been dishonored. But since his sons were out in the countryside with his livestock, Jacob said nothing until they came back. Hamor, the father of Shechem, went out to talk to Jacob. When Jacob's sons returned from the countryside and heard the news, these men were outraged and infuriated that Shechem had insulted Israel by raping Jacob's daughter, an offense that could not be overlooked. Hamor said to them, "The heart of my son Shechem is set on your daughter. I beg you, let him marry her. Ally yourselves with us by marriage. Give us your daughters, and take our daughters for yourselves. Stay with us, and the land shall be open to you to live, or to move through, or to own." Shechem said to the father and brothers of the young girl, If only I can win your favor, I will give you whatever you ask. Demand from me a huge bridal price and gifts. I will give you so much as you ask. Only let me marry the young girl." Then came the answer Jacob's sons gave to Shechem and his father Hamor, a crafty answer, because he had dishonored their sister Dinah. "We cannot do such a thing," they said to them. "To give our sister to an uncircumcised man would be a disgrace for us. We can agree only on one condition, that you become like us by circumcising all your males. Then we will give you our daughters, taking yours for ourselves, and we will stay with you to make one nation. But if you do not listen to us on this matter of circumcision, we shall take our daughter and go." Hamor and Shechem, Hamor's son, were pleased with what they heard. The young man did not hesitate about doing this, for he was deeply in love with Jacob's daughter. Moreover, he was the most important person in his father's household. Hamor and his son Shechem went to the gate of their town and spoke to their fellow townsmen, saying, "These men are friendly. Let them stay with us in the land and move about as freely as they like. Let us marry their daughters and give our daughters to them. But these men will agree to stay with us and become a single nation only on this condition: all males must be circumcised as they are. Will not their livestock, their goods, and all their cattle belong to us, if only we agree to let them stay with us?" All the citizens of the town agreed to the proposal made by Hamor and his son Shechem, and so all the males were circumcised. Now on the third day, when they were still in pain, Jacob's two sons, Simeon and Levi, brothers of Dinah, took their swords and marched into the town unsuspected. They killed all the males. They put Hamor and his son Shechem to the sword, took Dinah from Shechem's house, and came away. Jacob's sons attacked the wounded and pillaged the town, because their sister had been dishonored. They took away their flocks, cattle, donkeys, and whatever there was in the town and in the countryside. They carried off all their riches, all their little children and their wives, and looted everything to be found in their houses. Jacob said to Simeon and Levi, "You have done me harm, putting me in bad odor with the people of this land, the Canaanites and the Perizzites. I have few men, whereas they will unite against me to defeat me and destroy me and my family." They retorted, "Is our sister to be treated like a whore?"
I will be reading from the Jerusalem Bible, Obadiah, chapter 1. Vision of Obadiah about Edom. I have received a message from Yahweh. A herald has been sent throughout the nations. Up, let us march against this people into battle. Sentence pronounced on Edom. The Lord Yahweh says this: Now I am going to reduce you among the nations and make you utterly despised. Your pride of heart has led you astray, you whose home is in the holes in the rocks, who make the heights your dwelling, who say in your heart, who will bring me down to the ground? Though you soared like the eagle, though you set your nests among the stars, I would still fling you down again. It is Yahweh who speaks. The annihilation of Edom. If robbers came to you, or plunderers at night, they would steal to their heart's content. If grape gatherers came to you, they would leave no gleanings behind them. How you have been pillaged! How Esau has been looted, his hidden treasure rifled. They have driven you right to the frontiers. They have misled you, all your allies. They have deceived you, your fine friends. Those who ate your bread now set traps for you. He has no intelligence now. When that day comes, it is Yahweh who speaks. Shall I not deprive Edom of sages, the mount of Esau of intelligence? Your warriors, Taman, will be sized with terror until not a single one is left in the mount of Esau. The guilt of Edom, for the slaughter, for the violence done to your brother Jacob, shame will cover you, and you will vanish forever. On the day you stood by as strangers carried off his riches, as barbarians passed through his gate and cast lots for Jerusalem, you behaved like the rest of them. Do not gloat over your brother on the day of his misfortune. Do not exult over the sons of Judah on the day of their ruin. Do not play the braggart on the day of distress. Do not pass through the gate of my people on the day of its misfortune. Do not in your turn gloat over its disaster on the day of its misfortune. Do not lay a finger on its treasures on the day of its misfortune. Do not take your stand at the crosswords to cut off its fugitives. Do not hand over its survivors on the day of distress. For the day of Yahweh is near for all the nations. As you have done, so will it be done to you. Your deeds will recoil on your own head. The day of Yahweh, Israel revenged on Edom. Yes, as you have drunk on my holy mountain, so will all the nations drink unsparingly. They will drink and drink deep, and will be as if they had never been. But on Mount Zion there will be some who have escaped. It shall become a holy place, and the house of Jacob will despoil its own despoilers. The house of Jacob shall be a fire, the house of Joseph a flame, the house of Esau stubble. They will set it alight and burn it up, and no member of the house of Esau shall survive. Yahweh has spoken. The new Israel, men from the Negab will occupy the mount of Esau. Men from the lowlands, the country of the Philistines, they will occupy the land of Ephraim and the land of Samaria. And Benjamin will occupy Gilead. The exiles from this army, the sons of Israel, will occupy Canaan, as far as Zarephath, and the exiles from Jerusalem, now in Sepharad, will occupy the town of the Negeb. Victorious, they will climb Mount Zion to judge the mount of Esau, and the sovereignty shall belong to Yahweh. Amen.
The Jerusalem Bible, Matthew chapter 26, 36 through 46. Then Jesus came with them to a small estate called Gethsemane, and he said to his disciples, "Stay here while I go over there to pray." He took Peter and the two sons of Zebedee with him, and sadness came over him, and great distress. Then he said to them, "My soul is sorrowful to the point of death. Wait here, and keep awake with me." And going on a little further, he fell on his face and prayed, My Father, he said, if it is possible, let this cup pass me by. Nevertheless, let it be as you, not I, would have it. He came back to the disciples and found them sleeping. And he said to Peter, So you had not the strength to keep awake with me 1 hour? You should be awake and praying not to be put to the test. The spirit is willing, but the flesh is weak. Again, a second time, he went away and prayed. My Father, he said, if this cup cannot pass by without my drinking it, your will be done. And he came back again and found them sleeping, that their eyes were so heavy. Leaving them there, he went away again and prayed for the third time, repeating the same words. Then he came back to the disciples and said to them, You can sleep on now and take your rest. Now the hour has come when the Son of Man is to be betrayed into the hands of sinners. Get up, let us go. My betrayer is already close at hand.